Greetings and welcome to another installment of Quantslob. This time around, we're going to discuss the critical importance of strategic thinking. And by the way, this edition is the kickoff to our foundational series. We're going to include here, as part of this edition, an understanding, a discussion around what differentiates strategy and tactics, or more to our purposes, strategic thinking and tactical thinking. You might be thinking, I think a lot of people might think that this is not a topic one would expect to deal with on a channel whose focus is on data science and stats, and maybe to a point you're right, but here on Quantslob, it could not be any more important or relevant. Most people really give little or no thought about how strategic or abstract problem solving is any different than tactical problem solving. And as a point of fact, if we were to look at a thesaurus, we might be told that strategy and tactic are synonyms. And it is true that they both describe types of techniques that can be used to achieve an objective or solve a problem. However, within that broad similarity, strategic techniques and tactical techniques are like polar opposites. A strategy is a course of action based on a high level or broad understanding of a problem or situation. Tactics tend to be low-level details, individual actions. Strategies tend to be conceptual, whereas tactics tend to be more task-oriented. A good strategy, of course, requires that tactics are available to execute it, and a good tactic is one that serves the goal of the strategy. And really, this is a very deep and sublime topic, and much more than we can really serve up here in substantial depth. But I want to spend a moment reviewing the subject as a social critique. Very simply, nowadays, people are losing their strategic capacity. Leo Gura mentions in one of his videos that he believes that the typical person today spends 0% of their time thinking strategically. And I may be paraphrasing here a little bit, but the point is made, and it is a powerful statement. If you want to check out the video, do a search for Leo Gura, G-U-R-A, and strategic or strategy. I don't want to recite the title of the video here because I want to keep Quantslob a clean channel, but you will know it when you see it. Okay, what's the deal? What are we talking about here? As societies become more and more structured, everything gets reduced to a process. In a systematized modern society, everything we do reduces to some process or recipe, and processes are extremely, if not entirely, tactical. And so I'll offer one example I think many of us are familiar with. We spend 3 or 4 years in high school getting up early, sometimes staying late. And after all that's said and done, our worthiness into college is determined by a 3 or 4 hour exam. And needless to say, there are plenty of step-by-step guides out there promising high scores on the SAT. So we're going to move on to a couple practical examples illustrating the difference between strategy and tactics. But just as an aside, before we proceed with the examples, I want to point out that I'm very aware of the irony of using examples to explain abstract thinking, and especially to emphasize its importance here. Examples are a type of inductive reasoning, and induction usually makes for a weak presentation, especially in math circles, except perhaps as a double irony in a systematized society where people often base their whole lives on anecdotes. And it reminds me of the man on the street deal where some reporter will ask some random person what they think about this one topic or that, and I cannot imagine anything less informative than that. I mean, for all I know, this person enjoys eating bark off trees for dinner. But anyway, the advantage of examples is that they can help make very complex concepts accessible. So we're going to consider a couple examples to illustrate the difference between strategy and tactics. The first is a game of chess. This is actually what we're going to show as a real game. It's Lenar's 1991 Ivanchuk with the white pieces, Kasparov with the black pieces. This isn't a chess channel, so we're not going to do a post-mortem or a diagnostic or anything like that. But in chess, this is great fodder for strategy. Strategies tend to be high level, as they are in general. A strategy may involve things like positional advantage, such as pawn structure or piece mobility, maybe an endgame advantage. Tactics usually refer to a sequence of moves intended to advance the strategy, certainly, or bring about a particular event, such as a fork or a pin. Here we see Ivanchuk creating queenside space and then rolling his pawns, Kasparov's king, and ultimately here Kasparov resigns at move 38, something of a surprise outcome. It has been said in many different ways that top players like grandmasters are distinguished from others by their excellent strategic vision. The other example here offers that I'm going to offer involves interior design. This is a topic or discipline like chess at which I'm not particularly skilled, but it's a really good example. With interior design, establishing the ambiance or mood or atmosphere of a space can be thought of as a strategy. Tactics would include the selection of paint, window treatments, fixtures, furniture, flooring, and so on to attain the desired mood or atmosphere. Developing a strong mind for strategic thinking is important to data science in two ways. First, it's important for precisely the same reason it's important in just about everything else we do. We need to be able to see the big picture and not obsess over details. The second, more to the point, I think, concepts within mathematics and stats can be very abstract. No matter how hard we try, we'll never be able to hold or throw or eat a random variable. We can search until the end of time, and we will never observe a superpopulation, so-called. We're going to pick this up in a soon upcoming edition called The Idea of the Thing Itself, and this in turn is going to segue us into a discussion of statistical populations. The big takeaways for now: strategic thinking is fast becoming a lost art. Do not be a robot. By awakening the strategic thinker in yourself, you will not just become a great data scientist, but a powerhouse of scientific problem solving. And that's it. That's going to do it this time around. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And don't forget to stay tuned for more Quantslob.